And the elephants will also do that here in the Sabi Sands. They'll dig into the riverbeds in order to get to water. I've never seen them digging right next to a waterhole that was full of water in order to get to other fresh water, but I have certainly seen them doing it where they have not been able to access water. Then they start mining for it. Everybody, there are some animals that I have not seen for some time, and they are hard at work on the left hand side of our vehicle here on the ground. And with the little camera that we've got, we are going to be able to get you some awesome close-up views of a really industrious animal called the dung beetle. And how cool are these things? Oh, one's just flown off, and there's just the one left. I actually saw one coming and landing there. Now that's how I was alerted to their presence. Not too sure what dung that is. It looks like it could be Inyala dung that they're busy feeding on. Now that looks right to me, but it has already been broken up by them. Have you still got it there, Wium?
Yes.
Is that a female hanging on to the side already of the ball of dung?
No.
Is it another one though?
Another ball of dung.
Oh, it's an unprocessed ball of dung. Interesting. So you get lots of different types of dung beetles, everyone. Some that will transport their balls of dung quite large distances before laying an egg in them and then burying them. Others will bury them directly below, actually, where they find the dung. So they'll just create a ball that they roll up themselves and then bury it straight down. So different types, and this one seemed to be the one that was rolling it away. I'm not sure where it's got to. Let me see if I can reposition the vehicle, get another view. And sometimes what you'll see is the female actually hangs on to that ball as the male rolls her off into the sunset. And then it's usually just one egg that's laid within the ball. And then when that egg hatches, it's got a wonderful larder of food to feed on. So I can see the pile of dung. I can't see where the beetle is. Have you got it there, Wium? Against the log. You can just see the little ball of dung moving on the right hand side of the left log. You should be able to see there's a little bug buzzing around the actual dung, just landed on it, and you'll see it moving now.
I can't tilt down anymore.
Sorry everyone, again I'm blinded by the fact that I don't have a monitor. Is that better? And he could be starting to bury this right away. This will be awesome if we get to see this happen. You may have heard a branch breaking there. That's an elephant snacking nearby. There's also a lot of bird chorus at the moment. Now I know we don't have the best view, but it'll be interesting just to wait a little bit longer to see what happens next. Interesting that other dung beetle came in, had a look around, but obviously didn't like this dung very much, and then flew off. And we've hardly seen any. I think I've only managed to show you one so far this summer season. So happy that they are back in action, and that would have been brought about by the very recent rains. We also had a huge amount of reproductive termites emerging from some underground burrows that they live in, or termitariums that they are called, and they were leaving their burrows yesterday. Even more flying ants or reproductive termites were out today, and now the dung beetles. So a lot of insects will be waiting on the rain before they come out to play and to feed and to start breeding and getting the next cycle ready for next summer. So happy now that these insects are out and about again, because they do creates a very important part of the safari experience. It's not only the big stars of the show like the elephants we've been viewing. It's incredible the strength of this dung beetle. I mean, it's moving so much earth now. Watch closely. And it's lifting up a huge amounts of soil and earth. I think I'm actually going to jump out quickly and be able to have a closer look as to what's going on. Oh, this is so cool. What's happened is he's actually decided to bury the dung underneath a little piece of buffalo dung here. But I can see from here, this is all fresh soil being pushed up, and the ball of dung is almost completely concealed already. So he's doing an incredibly quick job burying this ball of dung. I can't believe how quickly he's doing it. And he's doing it all under the ground here. So, I mean, it must be a very awkward scenario for him to have to dig with a mound of dung on top of him, trying to get the soil out the way. What I'm interested to see is how long it's going to take for him to leave and then come out and possibly roll another ball of dung that he may take off and bury elsewhere. I'm not too sure how many balls of dung a dung beetle would like to bury in an average successful breeding season, but at least this guy has just about got one tucked under the earth where, oh, I think he might be emerging. I think he might be coming out. You can see the soil being pushed up kind of behind where the ball of dung is. I've got a feeling he could be coming out. Watch closely here. The ball of dung is just below the stick now, directly below the stick. Make sure there's no elephants creeping up on me. Now what you'll sometimes find is animals like mongooses, small carnivores with strong senses of smell will be able to actually smell these balls of dung and the little grubs living inside them, and you'll actually see them digging up little balls of dung. Oh, here he comes, here he comes. I'm pretty certain he's going to come out now. Watch closely. Somewhere here. So even though this dung beetle is very clever in burying this larder of food for its egg that it's laying, it's not a sure fix, and it's no guarantee that a predator will not find it. On a bushwalk I did not too long ago, some of you will remember, we actually managed to find a hard case of dung, and it was a perfectly round ball that understandably hardens on the outside, and the young larvae would feed on it from the inside out, and sadly before it could hatch, it got taken by, in all likelihood, a mongoose, where we saw it had dug out the little dung ball. Now I'm tempted to stay here for a bit longer, but I'm not too sure how much longer this dung beetle is actually going to be down under the ground here, excavating for this dung ball. So what we're probably going to do is send you across onto James's vehicle for a quick update on what he's up to. I am going to stay here though and keep an eye on this dung beetle, and I'll be sure to call you guys back as soon as we see any sign of it emerging from its little digging session.
Well, we have found something. It is a truck full of humans, Homo sapiens sapiens. That, of course, means wise man, which in this case is purely a nominal declination. Well, I suppose there might be some wisdom on the back of that car. On the very back, there certainly isn't. There is old Brent Leo Smith. Three eminent persons, the eminent Peter Pretorius, and and William. Okay, we'll see you later.
Hello everyone.
Just a quick hazard. I'll only be on drive again in that fun seat you've got.
Yes.
Probably Saturday with Hayden when you
Okay,
ride. So for
marvelous.
now I'm going to be with our friends here, and I'm also glad for you guys to have met them and for them to have
Yes.
been on the vehicle with you a little bit. So they're going to
Perfect.
be telling you a few stories, and having sat with you in the back of various vehicles with some of the great guys we've got out here, and probably the best comedian on wild safaris at the moment. So yeah,
The only one.
glad to have had you guys that side as well. So
Alrighty.
I'll get one more.
See you later.
Quickly.
Thank you so much, Peter. Yes, it's not embarrassing at all.
No, not at all.
Okay, I'm leaving now. Goodbye. Cheers, guys. Alrighty, now, it's enough silliness for the day. Marvellous having Peter back, of course. His camera is well, it's ubiquitous, and it does take a lot of pictures of us all, which is actually teeth, and shave our heads when they need to be shaved. Right. We had a question about termites and flying ants, and is there a difference or not? And that's from Ashley in Derby. And Ashley, there is a huge difference. Sorry, I'm just trying not to. I'm hoping we're going to see a little termite emergence as the sun comes out here, so I'll drive very slowly along. A flying ant, in the true sense of the word, is in fact a flying ant, and in many respects very similar to a flying termite. There are some beetle in that they're reproductives who leave the ant colony and go off and start another colony somewhere else. A flying termite, which is what that video that Scott made is of, is just that. It's a flying termite, and sometimes they are confused. They're just sort of referred to ubiquitously, and certainly as a child I used to call them flying ants, but actually what we mean is they are flying termites. So, and they are, I mean, they're as different from each other as, what can I say? They're as different from each other as we are from the buffalo in front of us, in fact probably even more so. So it's a wonderful example of what we call co-evolution, where two different species, two different entirely unrelated species, have evolved the same strategy for survival due to similar environmental conditions. Thank you, Ashley. Very good question, and I'm sure certainly quite enlightening to some who are not perhaps big fans of insects. So we have some buffalo bulls here, which we will observe in what is fast turning into a gloriously lit afternoon. There we go. They will be loving the fact that we've had this rain, not so much for the water, but for the fact that the grass in the last 2 days has covered the place in a kind of golden green sheen, and you can see that with the sun behind these buffalo now. And after the long winter of eating nothing but dry sort of grass, a bit like, you know what it's like? It's like us going through lean times obviously there were times when our species did go through very lean winters and we had to store food, and at the end of the season you're eating kind of a bit of dried deer meat, possibly the odd oatmeal biscuit, and that's probably about it. And it's just like that for these buffalo that have been eating dry, dusty grass for the last 3 months, and now suddenly they've got this flush of beautiful grass, and although you can't touch it or feel it where you are, the sense that light shining off it is giving you will give you an accurate representation of what it feels like. I'll pick some just now. And they'll feed along happily into the evening. It's been the temperature for this time of year now is so pleasant. It really is just absolutely perfect. You don't need a jersey. I don't think you need, Brian, you haven't even bought a warm jacket, though you have, just in case. Yeah. Brian is very terrified of the cold, but it is the most perfect temperature. And it's almost like these grazers and browsers have just kind of breathed a sigh of relief as the rains come, just like we have, you know. It was so dry and so hot and so dusty. And now it's all green again. I tried to catch a dung beetle. Unfortunately, all I've succeeded in doing is putting him on the floor. He'll take off again shortly. I've tried that since I started in the bush. I've been trying to catch dung beetles on the wing, and that's the closest I've ever got. If the buffalo weren't here, I'd get out and show him to you. I think he thinks he's been knocked down by a predator. Anyway, we'll pick him up, send him on his way just now. I think we'll follow these chaps for a little bit longer and then we'll head down south towards Twin Dams. I'm always fascinated to know how much the water is going to fill up the dams. And certainly Bivelshoek Dam, you would not notice that it had rained there at all. It doesn't look any different. Hey, Brian?
Yeah.
I think it looks almost exactly the same. Where is my beetle friend? I think he's gone off. It was very clever of him. What I'm going to do is just pick some grass. As we go, well, yeah, you can taste some, everybody. Just take a chew of that. There you go. Surreptitiously through Bryan. New grass. And you really can taste the nutrition in it. It's amazing. Look, I wouldn't eat it, I wouldn't sprinkle it on my salad this evening, but certainly very nice. There's a pig. A whole lot of warthog through there that we'll try and get a view of. Now, while we're doing that, Charlotte in Denmark, you're what's the opposite of a phobe? A phile. You're an arachnophile. You enjoy spiders, clearly, and you want to know about baboon spiders and if we've seen any. Yes, you know there are quite a few around. Oh, don't run away. The warthog here are very skittish. Anyway, Charlotte, there are lots around. Certainly their webs are all open. Their burrows are all open now. And if we find one, I'll certainly try and remember to show you. Lots are on quarantine around where Karula was with that Impala in the tree. And a baboon spider, to those who don't know, is basically the African equivalent of a tarantula. But fairly harmless. In fact, almost entirely harmless. There you go, these buffalo. And some of the most relieved animals that we have out here will be those warthogs. They really don't like the drought at all. With their short, stumpy little legs, it's difficult for them to move too far to water. So they'll be most relieved for the odd puddle that now exists in the bush here. And I just want you to listen carefully now. I don't think you'll hear it. High, high, high above us, the sound of the European bee-eater. Here they come, there they are. And I'm sure that these European bee-eaters are not eating bees at all, but emerging termites. Look at them, they're a wonderful kind of squadron. And they're designed exactly like little fighter planes. Look at them. You can probably hear them now. Gorgeous birds, golden, greens, blues. Catching termites on the wing. It's a quite astonishing feat. We're always amazed by people that are able to catch, say, a cricket ball or a baseball going at probably 120 kilometers an hour, 100 or almost 100 miles an hour sometimes. And these birds are catching these tiny little things doing about the same speed, but in the air. Maybe not quite the same speed. Buffalo are normally a little bit more skittish than this, and I think they're so relaxed because they're so happy to be eating all of this fresh food. They really couldn't care less about us at all. I believe you've been looking at the dung beetles with Scott. They're such a rewarding thing to be looking at. Most amusing. Buffalo right here. So from the diamond capital of the world, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in Antwerp, Belgium, Hilda, on the subject of dung beetles, you want to know how many eggs they lay in a season. Is it only one? Hilda, it will depend very much on the species, of course. There are over 900 species of them. Those ones that I think Scott was showing you are the dung rolling kind, and they will definitely lay more than one egg. So it will only be one egg per ball, as far as I'm aware, and then they'll make other balls throughout the season, and then they will eventually die at the end of the season, having probably buried, I don't know, say 10, or no, probably more, probably up to 20 or 30 different balls of dung. Let's roll forward. Well, Jigger doesn't roll. Jigger doesn't roll even on 180-degree slope. So aged are her bones. Just a road up ahead here, so I think we'll go onto that. All right, let's go back to Scott while we move around these buffaloes. Sorry, there was a tree that leapt up behind us. Very shocking experience. Let's go back to Scott. He's going to head back towards
Hello everyone. Being out in the bush and being out there live has its technical challenges. We're experiencing...
Sorry about that little glitch, but you are back on safari, and I'm happy to have some more company. We are still probably about 5 minutes away from Karula, a female leopard, who we saw a little bit earlier on the drive, for those of you who may have tuned in more recently. And I'm guessing she is still going to be around. She's got an Impala kill that she's probably going to finish off at some stage this evening. We might get lucky and find her on the last few scraps tomorrow morning, but I'm guessing she'll probably be gone in the morning. Anyway, that's tomorrow's problem to worry about, and this evening we are certain we are going to lay eyes on her, but we're just not sure whether she's going to be asleep or whether in fact she's going to be on the move, up in the tree that she's got her Impala kill hoisted in. what may happen, we're trying out our eyes in the sky, a drone, and at any point you could be crossed up into the sky for a bird's eye view of us as we make our way towards Karula. And there you are, up in the sky. I'm so jealous that you guys have got that view. Oh, now I can see the drone. And you probably can't see me, but I'm giving you a big wave. And I'm heading down the main access road, which leads us towards the 2 camps at Juma. And then you'll see a road junction up ahead. And that's where I'm going to be turning right. And you'll see another vehicle parked up ahead there, possibly. And that's where Andrew, our drone pilot extraordinaire, is commanding this device from. And Jamie and Nikki and Kirsty are also there. And now we're on the central road that runs through the quarantine clearings. There's another kind of road that runs around the circumference of it to my left, and another one to my right. There's a little herd of Impala, also just down to my right-hand side, that you may be able to get a glimpse of, although no, the drone's up there on the left. And welcome back, the drone. I wonder if Wium can try and catch it quickly. It's just looping up to the west now. And wasn't it cool that that's what was taking you on safari just a few moments ago? And now Wium's in the perfect spot to probably just drop down and zoom out and reveal the beautiful clouds as well as a herd of Impala that we're just driving past here. And it looks like the drone is coming back for a closer look of these Impala. This is going to be absolutely awesome, guys. They're very close to us, and the good thing about Impala is they typically don't react negatively to drones. Certain animals will, and that is the last thing we want to do. So be aware that that is certainly not our intentions. And now you'll be able to see some wonderful visuals of this herd. And isn't this awesome? Okay, well, I'm sure you enjoyed that. And exciting stuff playing with the new toys here. We're going to make sure the drone doesn't follow us any closer though. As I mentioned, we don't want to interfere with animals, and certain animals will probably react differently to the drone compared to others. And we're guessing that Karula, a leopard, will be less welcoming of the drone and probably more tuned into the fact that it's there. So we're going to keep it behind us, out of the way, and go back to Karula, who was last lying on the right hand side of this road. She could well have moved by now, as it was over an hour ago that we last saw her. She's just so well camouflaged though that she could be lying in a different spot and we could drive straight past her quite easily. Could also be up in the tree, which is directly to our left, but I don't think she is. Oh, this is going to be great. She's elevated up on this termite mound. Absolutely fantastic. I just want to get the sun directly behind her for a little bit later on. That should work well. And as the sun begins to set, we're going to get some incredible colors popping up behind her. Oh, this is interesting. She's bought herself a snack. She's having a little picnic here on the termite mound. Wium, can you see that? And you'll notice there's a strange furry shape behind her that are not the typical gold and black markings of a leopard, and that is an Impala fetus that was pulled out of the stomach of the adult female impala that she has killed. This impala was probably within a week of actually being born. But sadly, this one didn't make it. And she's taken it down from the tree and brought it here as a little snack. I wonder when she did that. I didn't notice that kill earlier. When we did come here, she was lying not on this termite mound, but a little bit above it or below it. And there was no sign of that kill. So maybe she went and fetched it while we were gone. Hard to be certain though. And like I said a bit earlier, there is a lot more of the adult female impala up in the tree. Probably about 10 to 15% of that remaining. Hello to Ravi in New York City, and good to have you on board with us. Ravi has pieced together this puzzle that's been unfolding over the last few days with the female leopard and her kill, and she would like to know if the fact that it's been cold over the last few days has helped preserve the kill and therefore it not be infested with maggots. And I think it certainly has aided to that fact exactly, Ravi. So I think you are spot on. But leopards and lions and most carnivores will feed on carcasses that are infested with maggots. It's obviously not ideal, but they don't mind feeding on it, and there'll still be portions of the carcass that have not decayed or broken down that the maggots aren't necessarily feeding on, that are still good for the leopard and or the lion. So I have seen them feeding on other animals or other carcasses before, not necessarily a rotting impala. Wium's just spotted some wildebeest down in the background, and we'll give you a quick view of them, and then we're going to hustle you across to James's vehicle, who's found another kind of a leopard.
Well, everybody, we did our level best to stay with this animal, but as you know, they are extremely fast and wily. That is the leopard tortoise that has just disappeared into some thick bush, after which we cannot follow him, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. We don't need to keep staring at the back end of a tortoise, of a chelonid going into the bush. We will go and rather look at some wildebeest, and we will, Bryan and I, no, we won't see them, we will send you to see them, and we will carry on trying to find other bits and pieces of interesting things out here. See you just now.
And who would have thought that a tortoise would be able to outrun James and his cameraman? Thankfully, this leopard over here doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And the one great thing about this little camera that we're using temporarily on this vehicle is that it does have a magical zoom. And I'm sure a lot of you are enjoying the close-ups that Wium has been showing you of the various animals that we've seen already this afternoon. And it sounds like Wium's now focusing on the top end, the sharp end of the leopard, where you can see her whiskers and that little tufts of ears coming out of her little satellite dishes. And you'll also notice that she's got an incredibly immaculate coat. She'll spend a lot of time grooming herself in order to keep this as pristine and as beautiful as it is. You'll probably also notice that those rosettes are moving quite heavily, and she's panting deeply, and that's because even though it's cloudy, it's still fairly warm here. And more importantly, in this case, she's got a belly that's full of Impala meat pushing up against her diaphragm, which causes her to only be able to take short, sharp breaths. And I'm hoping that little furry belly that you're looking at now has got a few tiny cubs in it. She's long overdue giving birth, and her last cub that was seen was early this year, I think in either January or February. It was sadly killed by a hyena. Tiny little cub. It was the first time we'd ever laid eyes on it, and then it got tragically killed by a hyena. But this does happen often. Leopard cubs and lion cubs, all predators' cubs really, have a very low survival rates. But what's interesting is that since she last had a confirmed cub, it's been almost a year. And it doesn't take that long for a female leopard to mate and give birth. It's a kind of 3.5 month turnaround. From losing a cub to giving birth can be as short as 3.5 months, with just a 3-month gestation period, and as soon as 2 weeks after losing a cub, she could already be mating again. So not too sure what the problem is here, whether she's been picking the wrong males or whether she has lost the ability to give birth. Who knows? She's certainly not too old to. She's only 11 years old, and leopardess into their late teens have been recorded giving birth. But anything older than 20 would be considered an exceptionally old leopard, just to give you an idea of their longevity. So now, tricky to decide what to do now. I'm not sure what you guys are thinking, whether we should stay here or whether we should go and come back in 15 or 20 minutes. I certainly do not know the answer, so not too sure. But let me know what you guys think, and while we wait for you to send through your thoughts as to whether we should stay or whether we should go and come back later, we are going to send you back to James. So I look forward to hearing from you. Please help us in making this next decision.
Well, one of the residents of this area that will be extremely pleased to hear that Karula has taken that young impala out of the tree, and it is now in an accessible place for this magnificent white-backed vultures. Now much the same as the hyena. They have received very bad press throughout the world. They are, in fact, some of the most fascinating creatures that we get out here, and very sadly, their numbers are dwindling quite heavily. We think that has something to do with stock farmers that are poisoning carcasses, because they poison carcasses in the hopes that large predators won't kill their babies, kill their, the lambs of their stock. But unfortunately, that affects birds very badly. And likewise, there is also, because of the vultures and their kind of traditional association with death, certainly around the world, but in Africa especially, and that's given rise to various beliefs that their body parts can be used for traditional medicine, for soothsaying, and various other kind of powerful spells and that sort of thing, and potions that some of the traditional healers out here make. And so there has definitely been an enormous reduction in their numbers. Anyway, this chap's okay, and he's a white-backed vulture, and the most common vulture that we find out here. Now, normally, I was lying the other day on my back. I forget exactly where I was. It was somewhere in the bush. I was actually just lying on the ground, which is something I like to do quite a lot. And I saw a vulture flying so high above me that I thought it was impossible a bird could possibly be that high. They fly up to 800 meters. That is 2,800 or so feet above the ground. It's absolutely astonishing that a bird like that can get up there, A, B, maintain sufficient oxygen, and C, stay warm enough. I mean, 800 meters up is a long way. And these birds manage to do it, and how they see anything from there is quite astonishing. And you can hear the cicadas calling. You see the clouds moving behind this vulture, and I think that vulture is very much in the same space that Bryan and I are at the moment. We both feel like there's just a beautiful sorry everybody, I was suddenly distracted by a Burchell starling. I think that's his nest. I saw him stick his head into the hole there. Let's see if he does it again. Anyway, I was saying Bryan and I thoroughly enjoying the atmosphere that the rain has created. And the warmth, lovely cicadas calling, birds everywhere. It's a really nice atmosphere. So you can see the hole there. Now the Burchell starling is a hole nesting bird, and so it's very likely that that's his little home. And I've been amazed by the number of hole nesting birds that I found here, and I mean, I hadn't thought about it before, I don't think, but all the kingfishers and all the starlings, the oxpeckers, those lilac-breasted rollers, the parrots, all of them need nest holes to go into. And I think if I was a bird, I'd rather be a nest builder than a hole dweller, because there's no real escape route from there. Once they're in, they're in. And if a snake came along there, well, it wouldn't be very hard to eat all the chicks. Isn't he lovely? That's the Burchell starling, one of 5 starling species we get here. And Nekjin, I have not seen the woodland kingfisher, also a hole nesting bird on the Jumadam cam that you've all seen. I did hear him again today. I heard him 3 days ago, and I heard him again today in the distance. Frustratingly, I haven't seen him. I think there are going to be quite a few now that we've had a bit of rain. So with any luck, I'll see my first one fairly soon. I'm a little bit embarrassed and saddened that all of you have seen them, and I haven't, of course. But please keep watching the Jumadam cam. I think you'll see lots of interesting things. You know, one of the best ways to learn stuff about being in the wild here is just to sit and be and look and listen and smell, and something will come past. Something amazing will come past at various times. It really is all about the time that you spend out here. And I often feel sad for people who can only take the time to come and spend, say, I don't know, to spend 3 or 4 days or even a week out here, because so much of that Dungbeetle, so much of that relies on luck, you know, and it's just such a privilege to be able to spend season after season in an area like this and see the different changes and the tiny nuances that come with time in an area, and the new different things that you see in the same place that you drive past every day, and suddenly you'll see a new flower or a new tree or a new bird, something that you've never noticed before. Right, let's go back to Karula, see how she's doing with Scott, and I'll continue on my merry way towards Twin Dams.
You'll notice we've repositioned vehicles to show you some other wonderful views of her face and more of her back, you could say. And there's also a better view of this tiny little Impala fetus. Shame the poor thing, but it is nature. It's important to remember that it is a necessity for this leopard to kill in order to survive. Now, speaking of this little baby Impala, Sindek is intrigued as to Karula's movements, as to why she would have brought the kill down from the tree, carried it all the way over here to feed on. Surely doesn't she run the risk of losing it here? And certainly, Sindek, it would be a lot easier for a hyena to ambush her here. But I'm confident that because the little Impala lamb is so small, she'd be able to carry it away in her mouth without slowing her down at all, and she'd be able to get up into a tree very, very quickly. So I don't think she would lose it. It's a bigger kill that would be harder to get up into a tree quickly. Yes, that certainly would be a bad option and a higher risk to lose towards hyena or to hyena. So that is a good point that you've pointed out, Sindek. Also, another thing you mentioned was, wouldn't it be more comfortable down here? And that's exactly why she brought it here. It's much more comfortable to feed on. Not that she's fed on much of it, but she's a lot more comfortable down on the ground than she would be on a termite mound for obvious reasons. So, there's an abnormal view, somebody's head popping into the shot. But these things do happen on safari, and they are enjoying a wonderful time. Something very interesting, I'm not sure that you may have not seen before, is the guide's helmet that he's wearing. Wium, once the guide has positioned the vehicle, maybe you can try and show a close-up on his very interesting hat. That is a tortoise shell that he is wearing on his head. It's a unique hat, but isn't that incredible? That's another wonderful and bizarre thing that could happen to you on safari in Africa. You just never know what is around the next corner here. Back to the leopard and the impala though. Well done, Wium. Well, thank you very much for sending through your updates as to what you think we should do. And I agree with all of you. You all want us to head off. And I know James was talking to you guys about the different nesting habits of the various birds in this area. And the good news is there's a lilac-breasted roller nest, which is a cavity nest, not too far from here. And we've been monitoring the tiny little chicks that are growing up in there. There's 2 of them. And it's been a couple of days since I have popped in, so I'd like to go back there and monitor them. What I'll have to do, though, for those of you who may be joining for the first time and not seen the lilac-breasted roller nest, is that I'm going to actually film with my little cell phone down into this cavity, because there's no way his VM camera would be able to do it, and then I'll show that video back to you. And what we may see is some wonderful sightings of the adults returning to the nest when we get there. Good evening, Billy. Good evening, everyone. This was from inside the stomach. Yeah. Yeah, boy. Yeah, I think she's just bought it for a picnic. Yeah. Cheers, everyone. Enjoy. Thanks, eh? So, Billy was just asking me when did Karula kill this baby impala? So, I'm not too sure if he has been to the sighting before. So, I was just mentioning to him that it was, in fact, from the mother of the belly of the female impala that Karula killed, the adult impala, and that she hadn't in fact killed that young lamb. Now, on the topic of lambs, and also on the topic of Billy, who's from Cheetah Plains, they have apparently seen an impala lamb, and they're not too far from us, out to the east, and that was about 3 or 4 days ago. So the first impala lamb has been born, but not in our area yet. So really looking forward to seeing that. They're incredibly cute when they're alive and kicking. To Heidi in Switzerland, and Heidi's obviously been taking note of Karula's little tail twitching from side to side, and I'd like to know whether those movements are all instinctive movements or whether they're trained or taught. They must be instinctive, Heidi. Most things that happen out here in nature are actually instinctive. Very few things are actually taught from a mother to its cub, and that's certainly the case with leopards. They are born with the instinct to chase small prey, And even if it's a tiny butterfly or a grasshopper, when they're a little cub, once it starts flying away from them or jumping away from them, if it's a grasshopper or a little frog, the leopard will naturally chase after it. So that's an example of their instinctual ability to be able to hunt or want to hunt. And I guess their tail movements and all their little traits that make them what they are also predominantly built into their genetic makeup. What those twitches of the tail mean, Heidi, is very hard to say, but I guess you can kind of relate it to a dog or even an elephant. Most animals will hold up their tail or do something interesting with their tail in times of excitement or anxiety. And I know when leopards are hunting, they often twitch it from side to side. That'll be one moment where they're excited, understandably, and their tail will twitch. Often quite a lot, and to a degree where you may think, well, this isn't making too much sense. It's trying to creep up as carefully as possible with its tails moving from side to side. But usually you only notice the tail flicking and twitching when you're behind the leopard, and that's when you can see the white portion of the tail. If you look at the back of a leopard's tail, it's entirely white, whereas the front half, the front which will be exposed to the prey that it is approaching, will be black and dark in color, so harder to see. Oh, good news. There's an adult lilac-breasted roller, and it's up in the tree here waiting with a kill in its beak. And if we're lucky, we're going to get to see it fly down to the cavity in this tree. And it looks like a dragonfly that it's caught. Isn't this a wonderful close-up? Oh, that looks like a dragonfly, but it's actually a praying mantis. And it's got its wings bent out to the side. Oh, look at this now, it's calling. And I can tell you why, Wium. There's an African Harrier Hawk getting mobbed by a fork-tailed starling. There it goes straight down the road. And the other lilac-breasted roller came back. Isn't this awesome? Knocking it on the head. And the fork-tailed drongers are kind of part of the neighborhood watch policing system out here. But that's why this adult lilac-breasted roller started calling so insistently when this potential threat came through. And that same African Harrier Hawk, which could possibly dig into cavities, and that's predominantly what they do. They'll use their legs, which are double jointed, to be able to reach into cavities, just like the cavity we need to get you across to James's vehicle. He's got you a very rare bird. We'll be waiting here for you to get back.
Right, so everybody, there is a yellow-billed oxpecker on one of those buffalo. I'm afraid they've just, there, you can see the flash of yellow. There we go. There we go. They just decided to go away from us, which is very irritating indeed. We stopped here at Twin Dams. Lovely view of two yellow-billed oxpeckers, and then as you came across, they decided to turn around and hare off towards the drainage line. They took offence to something I said, I think. Oh well. C'est la vie, as they say. We'll try one more view. Right, so you can see now with the distance between us and the vehicle, 5 beefalos. What a wonderful opportunity this is to have, I think, this incredible aerial view of what's going on. Not even the skills of Drone Commander Andrew Francis, however, will get a view of the yellow-billed oxpecker from there. And you can also see probably Twin Dams there. There we got the yellow bills. We'll just try and get a view. And we got him there, Bryan. Bryan, of course, spotted these things, and what I want you to look at, everybody, that's them there. Ha! Look at that, just a little bit of yellow behind the red tip to the beak. Now, apparently, they are more peckers than combers. So if you see the red-billed oxpecker feeding... There's one in the back. Oh, there's the one at the back there who's just had a swim. We watched him have a swim, and he's now drying himself on the buffalo's pelt. They tend to comb through the hair like that. Well, he's actually just having a good scratch. but they comb through the hair, and the yellow bills tend to be more peckers. They will happily live together. They don't interbreed, of course. They're not the same species. There you can see a yellow bill feeding with a red bill quite happily. They also are hole nesting birds. We were talking about them, and you're obviously looking at that incredible nest that Scott found. He really is a nest magnet, that fellow, and he's managed to find so many nests. And that hole nesting bird, of course, lilac-breasted rollers, the most beautiful, possibly, example of them. Now, the reason, I'm getting so excited about a yellow-billed oxpecker, everybody, it must be slightly astonishing to some of you. They don't look particularly amazing. They don't look very different from the red-billed. But they are very rare. In fact, I think they actually might be endangered. And certainly in this area, not too uncommon further north in the Kruger Park, but here, not common at all. There they go, buffaloing away. So we'll just have a quick look at them from the air. And you can see the buff heading into the drainage line, and we're going to leave them as they head off towards the east, as the drone commander follows them round. This is just astonishing. They are now, I mean, you can probably get an impression of where we are. We're probably about 200 meters from those buffalo now, and yet I'm able to tell you about them while the aerial shot above them looks down upon an incredible afternoon. There's a big cloud building to the western side, and let's try and get a picture of that western horizon. It really is, it's starting to look quite ominous, which is very nice. This is just wonderful. So we're working, I just want to explain what we're doing here. We're working in tandem with Jamie's driving and Andrew is flying the drone, and so they know what we're looking at and we know what they're looking at via some very clever language from Tara. And the drone is up there and it's looking straight towards the horizon, or it's going to try and get a picture of the horizon. And oh no, it's not. Sorry, it needs a battery. Oki, a brilliant question, very appropriate for this time. You want to know how long the drone can fly for. This particular drone can only fly for about 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes before it needs a new battery. And so Andrew carries 6 batteries with him, and then they drive around, see something they want to film, and then send it up into the air. And what we'll do, the battery change takes roughly 3 seconds. So I think we'll probably stand by here and see if we can't get it into the air, so you can get an aerial view of that big bank of cloud coming over here. I love days like today. I just find them so kind of atmospheric. And funnily enough, I was thinking about this the other day. I was editing a photograph, and Gail in Richmond, you want to know if we get lots of rainbows here. Gail, we do get rainbows. I've only seen one in this season. Bryan, have you seen?
I've seen out here.
Yeah, not that many for some reason, Gail. I suspect it's got to do with the fact that in fact, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know why we don't get them here. Oh, I do know why we don't. I'll tell you why we don't, Gail. We get them, just not that commonly, and I'll tell you exactly why. It's because we often get storms, and the storms come in from the west, and the sun sets in the west, and they come in the afternoon. So the sun is actually very seldom behind the rain. And if you don't have that, you don't have the sun reflecting off the water vapor and the water crystals, and all the other bits of water that there are in the air. So in fact, the one that I did see was a storm that came in. It was one of the first ones we had. The storm came in from the east, or from the northeast, and the setting sun caught it, and that produced a beautiful rainbow. That's why we don't see them so often, because the rain often comes in from the west with the setting sun behind it. The drone is back up. You probably heard it just going past us. And now look at that incredible picture of the clouds as they billow and move towards us out of the south and the west. Oh, that must be a wonderful picture. You can probably see Treehouse Dam, twin dams from there. That's wonderful. So you can see the cut line, that's the southern boundary, that's the Gowrie main road we call it. It's our southern boundary, we can't go beyond that. And you can see rain building there. This is just magnificent. That drone is probably what, about 150 meters up? Brian, what do you think? Even higher?
Yeah, 150.
Yeah, 150 meters up. So you can see the rain coming in from the west. The clouds are actually not billowing in. They don't seem to be coming from the west. I don't know whether they're kind of swirling a bit around us, which is wonderful. A bit of wind picking up. Oh, what a wonderful way to see the world, especially this particularly precious part of the world. And I'm waving at the drone, of course, but you won't see that because it's so high up. Wasn't that must be amazing. I can't actually see what it's seeing, but I can just imagine if it looks good from here, what it must look like from there is incredible. Right, let's move on from here. See what else this wonderful reserve has on offer. We'll keep an eye on the rain though. We don't want to get caught out in a storm now. So we're going to head on to the southern boundary, head off in an westerly direction. I always get those mixed up. I always have to say them twice. Towards the setting sun. See what else we can find. We'll head towards Treehouse Dam. See what's there. And it's quite amazingly, Andrew has managed to re-find those buffalo bulls, Duggar boys, they're called out here. I can't see them, I have no idea where they are, but I think they're probably heading off in an easterly direction along, they've crossed that big kind of drainage line that we have running through the middle of Djuma, and they're going off enjoying, as they were that other group that we saw, the new fresh green grass. Isn't that amazing? We're going completely the opposite direction. I'm able to tell you about things going on around us. Very special indeed. And that's due in no small measure to quite a lot of technical skill, operational skill and directing skill that's going on with the team here. Absolutely nothing to do with me. See, the atmosphere has changed a bit now. It's got a bit grayer as the sun's starting to set. Andrew's put on 4 jackets. He's freezing cold. Right. I think Scott will have an update now for a shot of those lilac-breasted roller chicks and probably a few other things too. We'll head across to him and I'll keep you posted.
So, the adult we were waiting patiently for with that praying mantis kill did eventually come and drop it off before we could rush you back to us. It sounds like you were having fun though with James and the drone. And now that mantis has been fed to the chicks, we're going to Harrier Hawk videoing because the hole is very long and I've been... Oh, I can hear Mom. She doesn't sound too happy, so I must be quick. Okay. Now I can see them. be able to do it again, but that is not the case. Come on. Oh, there they are. It's not at all easy to see them. You'll just see a few bright blue colorations, but evidence that they're there. I don't want to wake them up. So let me just show you the video quickly. It's probably the worst video I've taken of them to date, but at least, come on, you will be able to get an idea. It's not at all easy to see them. You can kind of see that bright purple coloration there. That's one of their heads. So there are two chicks in there, and what's interesting is that they are looking so much more like lilac-breasted rollers now. Their growth and development is so quick, and it was probably just about 10 days ago that we discovered this nest. They were basically bare. They didn't have hardly any feathers on them, no coloration whatsoever, and within about 10 or 12 days they're already looking like almost adult coloration. So we're going to keep monitoring them. It'll be interesting to see when they fledge. I don't think it'll be too long from now. Cool. Sorry about the poor quality of my video, but they were kind of in an awkward little corner of their nest, wedged in a spot where I couldn't get the camera angles right, not under pressure at least. It's far easier to come back here when we're not actually live with you, which is probably something I will do next time. But that is the world we live in, one that you can learn from things every day. That was a quick lesson learned for me. I was panicking trying to get the right shots for you, and was quite relieved that I at least got just a slight glimpse and that bright turquoise coloration of the lilac-breasted roller. So I think now we should certainly head back towards Karula, the female leopard we left a few moments ago. It's the stage of the evening when animals like hyena are going to start becoming active, and the hyena, oh, the camera went flying there. The hyena do know that there is meat there, and they do know that there will be more and more little bits of meat falling down from the tree, and not only that, there will also be a lot of bones on the adult female impala that Karula cannot feed on. So the hyena are going to keep passing by waiting for these little leftover pieces. And it sounds like James has popped across to yet another nest. This is not one in a cavity, and it's also a nest we have been monitoring. I'm so happy that he's gone there, and enjoy seeing the progress on those two little chicks.
Oh, people, this is just so special. From the one strategy of the whole nester to the glorious little cup nest that's been made by these white-crowned shrikes, also found by Scott, and both the parents are here. And so often people ask about families out here, because of course it's a very human thing to ask to have a family, and very few of the mammals ever kind of live up to the expectation of a loving set of parents, and they're well cared for youngsters. Well, here is a complete opposite case here. We've got both parents, mum and dad, and they're looking after their two little chicks which are about to fledge, I think. Look how perfectly they sit in that lovely nest. Now, I would prefer to have a nest like that. It's quite airy. See out of it, get out of it if you have to. It's just so neat and perfect. And the two little youngsters were begging from the parents. Food. Quickly to Scott, he's got something great.
Welcome back, everyone. And as I was saying before we sent you across to James, is that there's a strong chance that a hyena are going to be active. And just up ahead of us, Wium, on the right of the road, the hyena's running away with what looks to be the fetus. There goes another young hyena. So our timing was off, but Wium, You can leave the hyena now because I want to make the most of showing everyone where Karula has run up to. She's up in an apple leaf tree. It must have been incredible to see her climb up that tree. So high before there's any actual forks. I'm just going to reposition quickly. Oh, Karula, we told you earlier. Oh, this is interesting. The hyena does have a portion of the kill in its mouth, that adult hyena that we did see. And if we look here, we'll notice that she does still have the fetus. So she didn't lose the fetus to the hyena. And it must have been so awesome watching her clamber up this tree. Because it's probably about 6 meters up till that initial fork where she's resting now. So it wouldn't have been her easiest descent. And now she's keeping a close eye on those hyena. I can see both of them are at the base of the tree where she has the kill, or the remains of the kill, and I'm not sure how that hyena got a chunk of meat. Maybe it had fallen down from the tree and it was just carrying it around in its mouth. Absolutely incredible. Looks like she's falling asleep up there. Oh, shame. Now, yawning. Oh, listen to the hyena. I'm just going to reverse a bit and try and get into a spot where Wium can actually show you them. They're not close by, but we should relatively easily be able to get to a spot where you can actually see them. They're still just sniffing around at the base of the tree there. At least one of them is. And this way we can at least show you what's happening there, as well as be in a spot where, in case Karula moves, we can show you her coming down this tree. I hope you heard that audio of them cackling. They were obviously kind of bickering amongst one another. Interesting, because the one hyena is so much bigger than the other one. The one kind of at the base of the tree now, behind the tree, is the biggest, and then look how much bigger it is than that smaller one. Oh, yeah, there we go. That explains things. That smaller one's certainly submissive towards it. And things seem to have calmed down there, and I'm just going to ask Wium to now pan across to Karula, because we've got such a wonderful view of her here. She's beginning to lick this fetus. She could well be trying to remove the fur, and they'll do that by licking and plucking the skin. And it looks like she's going to start feeding on it. She'll make very short work of this lamb, and she'll eat everything. The skull, the hooves, absolutely everything. And she will continue to feed on baby Impala until they're about 3 months of age, and even still consume the entire thing from head to toe, even from the ones that have been born. And Cheryl and Angie in Arizona would like to know what has taken her so long to feed on the fetus. It was probably one of the first things she removed from the belly of the Impala that she would have opened up. And I think we should get a bit closer now, Wium. How's your view? Is it okay?
Half a shot.
Okay, we can get a little bit closer, so let's do that. And it looks like the fetus doesn't actually have a head left, so it looks like the skull is gone. And Angie and Cheryl, we're not too sure exactly why she wouldn't have fed on it first, but I think it could be simply the fact that she was saving the best till last, the most tender, the most easy portion of the kill to eat. Who knows? It's certainly very interesting though, because we'll never have a conclusive answer as to why she has done this. But she has almost been storing it like it is going to be her little treat at the end. Oh, there at the base of the tree, you can see her head is now looking straight down below us. And we're going to see hyena and probably zebra in the same shot, as well as a leopard up in the tree. It doesn't get much better than this, everyone. Oh. And glad you got to see all three of them now in one shot. Now the hyena's plonked itself down. Karula's kind of looking around awkwardly, wondering what to do next. But she's got nothing to worry about up there. She's safe. So is her kill. I'm very interested that she went up this tree. Out of all of the trees that she had as options, it seems like the worst possible one she chose, but it all depends on where the hyena came from and I guess how much of a fright she got when they did arrive. Just like earlier when she looked like she was falling asleep, even now in such a high and intense moment, perched 6 meters up in the fork of a tree, she's taking a little nap. And as we zoomed in very close on her sleepy eyes, you might notice the letters WOW, W-O-W, spelt out right in the middle of her forehead. You've got to kind of squint your eyes and think out of the box, but you could well see that very distinctive WOW patterned into her forehead. And we can see her spot pattern as well, which is the little black spots that grow out just above the black dotted lines that her whiskers grow out of. And she's got 4 on her right hand side, which she's displaying perfectly to us now. The 4th one's very faint, but she's got 4 on the right and another 4 spots on the left. So she has a 4-4 spot pattern, but we're only seeing her one side now, and each leopard will have a different spot pattern, so that helps you to distinguish between the different animals. And it sounds like you guys are having some incredible close-up shots. Great now that she's really focused on something, possibly another hyena off in the distance. Now I'm thinking, because it's a windy afternoon, these hyena managed to get closer than they ordinarily would have. Had it have been a calm, still evening, she would have heard their footsteps rather, approaching. And maybe that's why they startled her, and that's what forced her to go up the most difficult tree to climb in the area. Because where she was lying on the termite mound, it's about 20 meters to the right of our vehicle, and between us and this apple leaf tree that she's perched in now, there's about 3 marulas that are closer by, and a marula's a lot easier to climb up, and also got a lot lower forks within the tree. So these are the zebras initially out in front of us, and isn't this crazy? It's probably can smell the wind is blowing kind of from us towards them. And here's one marula, another one that's very easy to climb, that was between the apple leaf that she's currently in and the termite mound, which is directly off to our right at our kind of 3 o'clock. And there's also one even closer, another bigger marula further to the right over here. which again would have been an easier option. The forks in it are considerably lower down than the first fork in this apple leaf tree. And that gives you an idea of probably where she would have come from. I'm not sure if you got to see the termite mound. Wium, did you see the termite mound? The termite mound that she was sleeping on when we left her was there. And there was another vehicle here, Billy, who was with us when we left, but I think he had just returned to the sighting. So he wasn't too sure what was going on. I heard over the radio waves that there was another leopard here, there was hyena, 2 leopard. So I started racing wildly here, and that's when you guys jumped on board, which was perfect timing. You didn't miss a thing. As we came in, you came in, which was always wonderful. So not too sure of exactly what went on. Billy was here kind of seconds before us, you could say. And again, Karula has fallen asleep. She's battling to get comfortable though, and that is the problem with using a tree that you've raced up without any planning. And even though she's lying on an uncomfortable tree, I'm told that she is still posing like a supermodel, and a lot of you are getting some wonderful screenshots. So well done for those of you who are taking screenshots. For those of you who aren't, best you get involved and start taking your screenshots as well. If it is your first safari, it's important to know that screenshots are a great way to get involved and to capture wonderful moments and memories that we do share together on SafariLIVE. And also a big thank you in advance to those of you who do take screenshots and go out of your way in effort to tag us in them and post them all over different social media platforms. We really do appreciate it. And a blanket of thank yous and apologies and gratitude to all of you who do that for us. It would be a never-ending job to thank you all individually, but we are extremely grateful for all of your efforts. This is quite a great angle now with the tail hanging down. Now, I'm told you can see the partially developed hooves of this leopard, which I mentioned earlier are very kind of soft and edible. They'll still be undigested when they exit the leopard on the other end, but it's important to know that nothing goes to waste. And occasionally, even with adults Impala up the skulls, that will be too hard for the jaws of the leopard process.
Certainly is relatively unusual for giraffe to be doing. They are not big liars down, and that's because they become extremely vulnerable. Pretty slow to get up when they're lying down. You can see this because they become extremely vulnerable. Pretty slow to get up when they're lying down. You can see this one safe in the knowledge that his companions are going to look out for marauding lions or other predators. Seems to be closing his eyes. We've got one cow and 2 bulls, and that's a young bull lying down on the ground there. And as I'm sure most of you know by now, the giraffe will not lie down with its head on the ground, because that will just result in an enormous pressure buildup of blood in the brain, because the heart is so very, very big. And And it's so big, of course, because it has to fight against gravity to get any blood to the brain at all. And interestingly, that is this kind of default position. They don't have to hold, there's no muscle used to keep the neck up like that. That's the kind of default position, and they actually have to contract muscles in order to put their heads down. There's the cow. You can see very clearly the difference in the horns there. Hairy and a little bit hourglass shaped. And the older bull, you can see his horns and his what is sometimes called a median horn, which I just think is a ridiculously fancy word for a calcification of the skull. And that basically comes from, but if you were to go into your bedroom and bash your head against the wall sufficient numbers of times, you too would develop what is a median horn on your head. I wouldn't suggest you do it. You don't really want one of those on the front of your head, and it does come from repeated bashing of the head against another giraffe and against their necks, and it probably also develops slightly without that effect because it will protect the skull during fights. Really doesn't look like. They all look very elegant and peaceful. You might in the distance be able to hear the sound of the frogs starting up. It continues to be a very beautiful evening, and I think you'll find that those giraffe, all of them, are having a bit of a doze. That one certainly is, but they can sleep standing up, so they don't always sit down to sleep. And in fact, that big one, that one there, his eyes are also closing, I think, Bryan. He looks very droopy-eyed. They're not even chewing the cud at all. So normally when you find them sitting still like this, they'll be chewing the cud frantically. Excuse me. I was speaking of frogs, there's one in my throat. Right. Now, let's go from not chewing the cud to chewing something that was going to eat the cud had it reached adulthood, Karula and her Impala.
So, as you can see, your timing yet again has been impeccable. Oh, nice big yawn. And she has just started licking the carcass before you got to us, and then now all of a sudden she sat up. As you can see, she's doing a bit of a grooming. I'm 99% sure she is still aware of the hyena that's kind of sitting below her, slightly out of her view. And it's going to be interesting to see what she does next. I'm guessing she may start feeding on this carcass, and once she does, she'll probably, oh, now she's having a look at the hyena, which is directly below her, and she's probably bumped into the same hyena on many different scenarios, and has probably had many kills stolen from it. Now she started licking that fur again, and Deonta in Long Beach, California, is interested to know why does she lick the carcass like this. And it's hard to be certain, Deonta. I mean, cleaning to a degree, the fur is not coming off, and that fur is so soft and short from this unborn fetus that it's probably more of a habit than anything else. And she's just going to chew straight through it. She's going through the neck now and the spine. The head is already gone, the 2 front hooves already gone from those little front legs that you can see sticking off in front there. And she'll be using the majority of the chewing she's doing now. She'll be using her back teeth like scissors to chew through these thick hunks of meat and bone. So the answer, sorry, I cannot give you a conclusive answer to your question, but I know with bigger Impalas she'll certainly try as much as possible to entirely remove the fur from it, because it's a lot longer and more coarse than the young, short and soft fur of a young Impala. Now what we must be ready for is that if she drops any little bits of this carcass, the hyena is going to be up in a flash to try and gobble that up. And what I'm doing is I'm just also trying to keep an eye back on the kill, just to make sure there's no other hyenas, or basically a 360 degree around us, just to make sure we don't skip a beat and miss anything. It's phenomenal how much action has unfolded here over the last 72 hours. We only arrived for the first time the morning after she made the kill. Oh! Watch closely, her claws might be getting protruded from their little sheaths to make sure she's got a good grip on that Impala. I just saw her claws come out very temporarily. Let's see. Oh yeah, you can see that one claw there. Look at that. And those claws will own. Oh wow! Look at this. Absolutely incredible. Now you can see that sheath I was talking about, and aren't we so fortunate to be seeing this? Ordinarily, they will be housed safely in that sheath when the leopard's walking around, kind of doing its general business. But when it's business time like this, those claws will be protruded from the sheath, and they'll be razor sharp. And we can now hear wildebeest alarm calling. That's very bizarre. Oh, oh, oh. There's a wildebeest stallion who has now spotted Karula in the tree. I think he's also keeping a close eye on the hyena below. Well spotted, Mr. Wildebeest, keeping your family safe. But nothing to worry about here, just a leopard and a hyena. They're probably not going to give you a hard time. It looks like she's about to go through the front right leg, chewing straight through all that bone. Listen, you might hear the crunching. Now we are quite far away, so I'm not sure if you're going to hear the bones crunching. There we go. Sadly not, and she is a little bit far away, and she didn't do too much bone crunching there. She just swallowed that whole big chunk, and what you'll find is quite large shards of bone in leopard and lion dung. Now I know James was heading off to find you yet another bird's nest. Hard to believe, but we've been doing incredibly well so far this season, and it seems like we've had an afternoon full of different bird nest checkups. So I'll be sure to let you know when he is there. The last nest that you'll be seeing is the most simple and basic of them all, but very interesting nonetheless. And the good news is it sounds like he's just got there and he's in position and ready to receive you. So we're not going to go anywhere, and be sure to be here when you get back.
So in the fading light of what has been just a beautiful afternoon, we found a whole lot of little things, including 2 nests, and this is the only one that I've actually managed to find myself. And this is a Senegal lapwing sitting on 3 little very well camouflaged golden brown eggs. I think she's been sat on these now for about a week, and they sit on their eggs for exactly 28 days, so about a month she has to sit on those eggs. That's quite a trial, I imagine. And Andrew, at least Bryan, was just saying to me, what do you think she thinks about while she's sitting on those eggs? And I couldn't answer him, of course, and not being able to talk Senegal lapwing, I was unable to ask her. But they eat termites, so I suspect she thinks fondly of termites and her next termite meal. The interesting thing that I did read about them the other day is that they eat, or not eat, they're sometimes kleptoparasitized by fork-tailed drongos. What that means is that drongos will steal their food. They'll catch them, and a drongo watching from a nearby bush will flutter down and steal the termite or caterpillar that the Senegal lapwing has managed to catch, which is very unkind, of course, of the drongos. But that's just the way it goes. Right, let's go back to Karula. She's munching on blood, apparently. That sounds pretty grim. We'll move on from here and see you later.
Well, there goes the other front leg. Actually, just like the first one, it's kind of battling to work around, but she's getting there. So, Karula, a bit of an awkward part of your meal. Look at how long your whiskers are. This is so cool. With that dark sky in the background, I have no doubt you're getting some incredible images of this. The whole herd of wildebeest is now off to our right, and you wouldn't believe it, but there's also a herd of elephants joining. And I'm just going to put the kind of spotlight vaguely across to them so Wium can show you where they are. It's not easy for him to work the super zoom of this camera, which I think he was using. Getting in and out of that zoom's tricky. And lots of wildebeest in the foreground, but the elephants are heading straight towards us now. And I know it's dark, but we can't shine lights on them because they're daytime animals. So we're just going to have to be patient and wait for them to get a little bit closer. There's a strong chance that these elephants are going to get worked up and try and chase this leopard or work out what's going on, and that's probably why they're heading straight here. They would have heard these distressed wildebeest and brought in their size and power to come and help however they can. The herbivores tend to have one another's back and keep an eye out for one another. This is going to be absolutely awesome. I don't know what to expect. The elephants for now seem calm, but they don't like predators, even though an animal like a leopard is highly, highly unlikely to cause any danger to an elephant. The elephants still dislike them. The wind is swirling, so it's going to be tricky for the elephants to smell, but it is generally blowing in their direction. So they could well pick up not only the scent of the carcass, but also the leopard and the hyena. All 3 things they're not going to be hugely fond of. You can still hear the wildebeest's alarm calling. I'm trying to keep my body out the way here So now, just to give you an idea of space, the elephants are probably about 30 meters away, not far at all. And I'm guessing they are going to keep coming even closer towards her. Now you're getting shots of both Karula and the elephant. Can you believe this? And you even got to notice how she did think twice about their approach, and she kind of gave them a once over just to make sure she knows what's going on there. Now it's going to be very interesting to watch the hyena's coming and running off here. And happy to come back later. What took you so long to realize that those elephants were coming? Okay, now let's try and watch closely here. The elephants are beginning to lift up their trunks. I saw the three right in front of us are, and they are now coming straight towards this leopard. This is going to be incredible. I'm just going to get a hold of Taxon quickly on the radio. He's wanting an update here. This is incredible. Taxon, just myself with Karula. She's up in the tree finishing off the carcass, Champion Glove below her. Can you believe how awesome this is? Now the elephants are smelling exactly where the hyena was lying. So that's what the Ellies are doing. I'm going to use the spotlights a little bit just to illuminate their trunks. I'm not going to shine it in their eyes. And they're literally digging up where that hyena was. It was exactly there. Phenomenal. Now I find it highly unlikely that there's going to be a bulb or a fruit right underneath the tree there. And maybe there is, but maybe she's doing it purely out of kind of frustration. She doesn't seem frustrated. She seems quite relaxed, actually. But the leopard's continuing to feed on the impala, not even battering an eyelid. The elephants, I don't think, realize the leopard's right above them. I'm 99% sure that they don't actually know that. And just took a short lapse from feeding there. Raisa's asking what would happen if the elephants shook the tree. Well, Raisa, it's a good point. Elephants are incredibly powerful, but I don't think to the degree that they'll be able to shake her out of this apple leaf tree. They would have to actually break the tree down, which is possible. I don't think these cows are capable of doing it to this tree, though. A big bull would probably be able to break this tree down. But even a smaller tree that an elephant cow could shake, I think a leopard's agility and tree climbing skills will overwhelm that and prevent it from falling out. So I don't think that would be an issue. And judging by Karula's body language, she does not have a worry in the world. Now she's giving them a bit of an eyeball. And she's making very short work of this fetus. Now the elephants are coming and giving us a bit of a closer look. They're all passing through that area of soil that was dug up by the elephants, by one of the cows. Again, that's something I've never seen before, but didn't see a bulb being eaten by the elephants. I think she was just scratching up that turf simply to kind of better process or get rid of that smell of the hyena, one of the two. What's remarkable is how quickly Karula is munching through this impala carcass. Not much left. You can see a little bit of blood trickling down this apple leaf tree. And I think she's kind of down to the back half of this little fetus. That was a little elephant trumpet there. There is one more Ellie that's about to pass below the tree in front of our vehicle, and then the whole herd would have moved off. Incredible stuff this, can you believe it? Elephants and leopard in the same frame, and that hasn't happened too many times before on SafariLIVE, that I can assure you. Just keeping an eye on the elephant. It's coming quite close behind the vehicle, but it's all good. It's carried on now, no issues, and you can continue enjoying rather, watching Karula really munching down on this kill. For those of you who have just joined in, it's important to know that she has been feeding on the adult female impala that was about to give birth to this young fetus. She killed that 3 nights ago and is still enjoying the spoils of that kill. She hasn't finished the mother off yet, and I'm guessing we may get a glimpse of her feeding on it tomorrow, finishing off the last little bits of the kill. But now it looks like she's getting some fur out and spitting it out. Not an easy job removing. Oh yeah, you can see a little bit of fur stuck on her lips and her tongue. It's kind of fairly easy to pluck the fur off, I guess. What's difficult is then getting the fur off your tongue and out of your mouth. And that often provides us with some funny visuals of the leopard in a bit of an awkward affair. Well, you'll be happy to know that the drone squadron is parked nearby with Jamie, Nikki, Kirsty, Jeandre and the pilot himself, Andrew. So we are not alone here, and always wonderful to have other crew out and about enjoying magical moments like this. That sighting that we've just experienced with the elephants coming past really was a unique one, and one that we will go many, many months, possibly years or our whole life again without seeing something quite as moving and special as that. And the great thing about this is that we are sharing these memories with so many people. And in a year's time, every single person involved in this live safari will be able to think back to this afternoon or this evening and collectively share wonderful, wonderful memories of what exactly has happened and what went down. And that's what's so important about the SafariLIVE experience. It would be no good sharing these wonderful memories just with a handful of people. The more the merrier. So keep spreading the word. There's still a bit of time left on the safari this evening. If you know of a friend who hasn't tuned in before, now would be a good time to tell them to tune in. Now that we have the Queen of Juma up a tree with some wonderful close-up shots that Wium's getting with the little camera, that little bushwalk camera. So close that I'm told you can even see a few ants running around up there. Very interesting question through from Barbara regarding the blood running down the tree. And it's a good one, Barbara. Barbara would have presumed that that blood would have congealed, seeing as though this fetus has been now dead for well into the 72-hour period. And I guess you're right, Barbara, to a degree. There will be certain blood that will congeal. That'll be the blood that is flowing through the arteries and veins of the animals, if that makes any sense. But there'll be, I think, other. Now I'm getting myself into a mess here because I can't explain it too. I know if you can still be blood in and around the meat and the muscles. So the blood will congeal faster than others. But a good question, and it certainly got my mind wondering, as I'm sure it's got a lot of your minds out there. Now, I don't have the same close-up views that you have, but I am being told I guess there's no neat or pretty way to go about carcass when you don't have a knife and fork, and when you don't waste anything like this leopard does. Oh, we've got a visit to the and as she continues snacking, Wium can pan down and show you this hyena. It looks like exactly it ran off earlier. I could be wrong, but it's come back now, and cleverly, because it'll know that there are the chances that little portions of the kill will fall down, even if it is tiny mouthfuls, or the leopard could make a mistake and drop a large portion of the kill. Isn't this great? You've got not only Karula but also the hyena. I'm going to turn my lights off. How's that look, Wium, with just Texan's lights better? Good. Okay. Always tricky business at night with all the spotlights and where to film and where to shine and where to film and where to shine and what the best options are. So forgive us for that, but we are trying our best to give you the best possible views. Look at this hyena. And there already could be some tiny bits that we haven't noticed falling down. The hyena's powerful nose would have led it to it, so I don't think that is the case. But what it may do is put its nose down right onto the ground and sniff about just to make sure. Because it is very windy, I think the hyena will know that it's not the best or easiest conditions to be certain of where it's picking up scent from. And as you can see, it's still wanting to snoop about a bit there. It looks up at Karula, and Karula's actually looking down at it with naturally a bit of a look of disgust on her face. No ways. Have a look at this, Wium. Have a quick look at the hyena. Sorry to drag you around everywhere. Now, earlier on, I'm sure we would have showed you the hyena lying in what was a very small cavity there. And the the elephant dug up that mound of soil so deeply that when the elephant has kind of dug its own little comfortable bed. And that is exactly where it was lying before the elephant chased it off, or rather than that, before it decided to run off. Wow, interesting things happen on safari on a daily basis. This is one of the more interesting things that's happened to me for quite some time. Now, Barbara noticed that the hyena's got quite a bulging belly and would like to know if it's pregnant. Barbara, very, very difficult to tell. So I don't necessarily think so. If it was very heavily pregnant, there's a chance that I'd be able to tell you that. But they're incredibly difficult animals to even sex, so I can't even be certain whether this is even a male or a female. My guess would be that it is a female, judging by her size. Females are bigger than males generally, but they are incredibly difficult animals to sexually distinguish between. And most of the predators out here, or all of the predators really, all the predators across the globe, will give birth to young that are very underdeveloped, altricial young, meaning that they don't get very big and swollen bellies like the herbivores do. And the reason for that is because predators need to chase down their prey, and with a big, heavy belly, they wouldn't be able to catch anything. So it makes more sense for them to give birth to young that are more difficult to raise, or less chance of raising small developed young, but at least they'll still be able to the stomach lining away from all the vegetable matter, and they do it kind of like sucking a through their lips, trying to remove everything. I didn't think they'd be feeding on Impala. She's also well designed and adapted to nocturnal vision, and it won't take her eyes very long to return to a state which actually see what's going on, whereas the animals who are not prone to nighttime vision will take much longer to readjust to the darkness, and of course the prey animals will have predators then having easy opportunities to feed on them. So spot on, Jennifer, we only shine on predators and or nocturnal animals, like a bush baby, I guess, is one animal that is certainly not a predator, but we will shine on at night because it is nocturnal. And it's good that we do point that out and remind everyone as to what we are doing out here. There's new viewers joining. Jennifer. And it's tiring business even chewing through a soft and tender Impala lamb. You can see her panting quite heavily. It's probably also because of the position and her posture sitting up in the tree. She'll have a lot of meat that she has already fed on. Pushing up against her diaphragm, causing her to take short, sharp breaths. Oh, is she thinking of moving to different spots? I see her looking around inquisitively, thinking of possibly repositioning. Not sure what she's heard out there now. She appears to be listening off in that direction. I certainly can't hear anything. She's now clearly looking downwards at the hyena, and now the hyena's looking up. And I'm told you just got an extreme close-up of her tongue and could even see a small blob of saliva dripping off in the direction of the hyena. Now at some point in time she is going to come down from this tree, and she could even do it while the hyena is nearby. If she does get to a point where her uncomfortable spot there overwhelms the slight risk she would have of running off away from this hyena. If she leaves the kill up there, there'll be very little purpose for the hyena to pursue her. So that's in all likelihood what she would do. And the way she's looking around in all different directions, I strongly feel she is planning a move of some sorts. I guess she may be wondering what's going on up the jackalberry tree about 50 or 60 meters away, where the other half of this kill is, or the mother of this little impala. There's probably about 10 or 15% of that kill remaining. So At the rate she's been going, she'll probably still be there in the morning, but I think by tomorrow afternoon she would have moved off. It's been wonderful spending this amount of time with her. It's probably the longest I've ever been able to spend with Karula in consecutive days, and that's in a whole year of being here. I've never had her on a kill as big as an Impala. And I know a lot of you are mentioning on Twitter that you're also loving the fact that we have got to spend so much time with her. The viewers who've been following SafariLIVE for many years have had some incredible moments with this leopard and previous litters of cubs she's raised. But we have been less fortunate in the year that I've been here and have seen her probably less than any other leopards. But that's certainly not that she hasn't been around. I guess it's just been unlucky that we haven't been able to find her at the opportune moments. But what's interesting is that she has actually moved back into Shadow's territory. Shadow pushed, actually Shadow's one of her daughters from her first litter, and Shadow's 9 years old now, and she pushed into Karula's territory in order to try and safeguard her cub, who is a young male who was under threat from a new dominant male out to the west. And since her cub has been out of the equation, Shadow has now retreated back onto the western parts of Arethusa, and now we're seeing more of Karula where we ordinarily did see Shadow for the last kind of 3 or 4 months. So interesting shift in territory dynamics between a mother and her daughter. And certainly enjoying having her around. Just going to keep quiet for a few seconds because there's incredible nocturnal audio coming through now. Frogs are calling. A lot of crickets and insects. So listen carefully just for a while. And I've told you I'm picking up some faint frog audio. We're going to do it properly. Don't worry, we're going to find you some puddles and ponds where the chorus of frog calls is almost deafening, but I just thought I'd try and give you a little taste there. Well, it doesn't look like Karula is going to actually do anything before the end of the safari, but she certainly has been giving us some wonderful, wonderful moments and memories this afternoon. So I hope you've all enjoyed it. I certainly have. And maybe it was the right call to head off to that lilac-breasted roller nest. Maybe it wasn't, but I'm glad we all jointly made that decision, because had it have just been me alone and we had have missed the initial attack of these hyenas, which did get a portion of the kill. I'm not too sure where that little chunk of meat came from that the hyena was carrying in its mouth, but we'll never know the answer to that. But what I can assure you is what we saw at the latter end of this afternoon safari was an incredible interaction between hyena, leopard, and even the elephants coming through at the end. James does send his thank yous and his goodbyes. It will be Brent and Jamie out, I think, tomorrow, but we will be starting to do the walking backpack sometime soon, so that might also be in the mix, something to look forward to if you are looking forward to a foot safari. Thanks so much for all your contributions, questions, and help on safari. It's been great fun as always. Well done to Tara and Louise in the final control room, and to Wium, who's done another great job on camera this afternoon. Have one last view of Karula, and we'll be sure to try and find her again in the morning.